The morning sky over the Gulf was still, almost deceptively calm. Then, out of nowhere, it shattered. On June 26, 2025, Iranian surface-to-air missiles streaked upward, tearing across the horizon. Their target, a US Navy P-8 Poseidon patrol aircraft flying a routine mission above international waters. In seconds, the silence was replaced with chaos. A violent shockwave slammed into the Poseidon. One missile detonated just off its port side. Metal fragments ripped through the tail section, shredding hydraulics and piercing the fuselage. Inside the cockpit, alarms screamed in a deafening chorus. Warning lights flashed red. The pilots fought desperately with failing controls, while one aviator, bleeding heavily, refused to give up. Every second stretched into eternity. Somehow, against all odds, the crew forced the Poseidon into a shaky descent. Engines coughed, the aircraft juddered, but they aimed for an emergency landing. Over the UAE, the wounded machine finally dropped onto a runway, skidding hard before grinding to a halt. Fire crews swarmed the tarmac. A blood-soaked pilot was dragged from the cockpit, alive, but barely. That survival carried a darker truth. Iran had crossed a line no adversary had dared breach for years. They hadn't just damaged an American aircraft, they had spilled American blood. Within hours, Washington responded. The president gathered his Security Council, voice cold and unwavering. Strike an American pilot, and you strike at the heart of this nation. We will answer harder, sharper, and faster than you can possibly imagine. Intelligence soon confirmed what many feared. The attack wasn't a mistake. It wasn't the act of a rogue operator. The missiles had been launched under direct orders from Tehran's chain of command. Clear, intentional, aggressive. For America's senior commanders, there was no debate left. To wound an American airman was to challenge the United States itself. Retaliation had to come, not in the form of anonymous missile volleys or distant bomber raids. This time, the strike would be personal, it would be precise, and it would show Iran's leaders that some lines, once crossed, bring devastating consequences. The chosen target was as symbolic as it was strategic. The Ministry of Intelligence and Security in central Tehran, the fortress-like nerve center that had orchestrated operations against the US for years. If Iran wanted to make it personal, America would answer in kind, by striking at the very heart of its intelligence apparatus. On the deck of the USS Gerald R. Ford, preparations began. Crews moved with grim precision, loading America's newest war machine, the F-15EX Eagle II. Unlike any fighter before it, this jet could carry nearly 30,000 pounds of weapons, integrate seamlessly with drones, and shatter the sound barrier at Mach 2.5, all while cloaked in electronic defenses. That night, under the floodlights of the carrier deck, ground crews armed the jet with two French-built AASM Hammer bombs, precision hybrids equipped with inertial guidance, encrypted GPS, and rocket boosters. Ordinary bombs turned into surgical killers. The mission was clear, the orders uncompromising. Penetrate Iran's most fortified airspace, strike the Ministry of Intelligence, and remind Tehran that no fortress was untouchable. In the cold gray before dawn, the pilot strapped in. He knew this would not be a routine sortie. This was retribution, delivered up close and undeniable. With a final salute, the F-15EX roared off the deck, vanishing into the night sky. And so began a mission that would etch itself into history. Ingress and bomb release. Long before sunrise, the Eagle II knifed through the Gulf air, engines shrieking with raw power. Twin afterburners hurled the jet forward, 58,000 pounds of thrust tearing open the darkness. Crossing the coastline, the pilot pushed the machine down to knife-edge altitude, barely 50 meters above the earth. Every second became a dangerous dance. Telephone poles flashed past like spears, power lines crisscrossed the terrain in a deadly web, and rooftops loomed from sleeping villages with almost no warning. His hands tightened on the stick, eyes flicking between the heads-up display and the black horizon. At this altitude, the ground was his shield, but also his executioner. The strategy was simple but brutal. Stay so low that Iranian radar stations couldn't see him until it was too late. Long-range missile batteries like the S-300 or the Bavar-373 relied on altitude to track their prey. But weaving at treetop level, ducking and jinking unpredictably, The Eagle was a ghost. A dangerous, fragile ghost. The pilot knew a single slip would end it. One miscalculation, one wire unseen, and the mission would end in a flaming scar across Iranian soil. Sweat pooled at his back beneath the flight suit. His gloves grew slick as minutes dragged into what felt like hours. Villages blurred beneath him. At one point, he shot across a narrow highway, startling a convoy of trucks below, drivers slamming brakes, headlights flashing in panic as the massive jet screamed overhead, birds scattered in frenzied clouds. The shockwave of his passing rattled windows and sent dust spiraling skyward. And yet, for all the danger below, the greater threat lay above. Iranian missile crews scanned their scopes relentlessly. At any moment, one radar beam could paint his aircraft, locking him into a death sentence. He flew erratically, banking left, snapping right, bleeding speed, regaining it. Every movement designed to foil an unseen trigger finger. Still, he pressed deeper into Iran's heart. Closer, closer, until finally Tehran's outskirts came into view. Dense clusters of concrete and steel bristling with antennas. Here, there would be no hiding. To reach his target, he would have to climb. The pilot steadied his breath. This was the moment of exposure, the riskiest move of the mission. Every Iranian radar within hundreds of miles would see him. Every missile battery would be waiting. But without altitude, the Hammer bombs could never reach their mark. At 6:17 a.m., just outside the capital, he pulled hard on the stick. The Eagle surged skyward, nose rising at a 45-degree climb. G-forces crushed his chest into the seat. The altimeter spun 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 meters, and then, like a switch being flipped, Iran's air defense network lit up. Screens and command bunkers glowed with a high-speed contact barreling through their skies. Operators shouted coordinates. Encrypted signals snapped across comms networks. Missile panels opened like jaws. From hidden launchers, long white interceptors roared upward in trails of fire. Bavar-373 crews launched a storm of rockets. East of the city, S-300 operators locked their gravestone radar onto the climbing Eagle, firing two massive 48 N6 missiles, each screaming toward Mach 6. The Iranian operators believed they had him cornered, but the climb wasn't desperation, it was calculation. The American pilot knew their habits, their response times, their angles. He had built the trap himself. At 5,000 meters, a tone pulsed in his headset. The targeting diamonds flashed green. Launch conditions met. He pressed the release. The Eagle jolted as its deadly cargo dropped free. Two Hammer bombs fell away from the pylons, their rocket boosters sparking to life. They shot forward on shallow arcs, stabilizers twitching as onboard computers corrected their flight paths 50 times a second. No missile defense could anticipate their shifting, razor-precise trajectories. The instant they were gone, the pilot inverted the jet, rolled sharply, and yanked the stick hard left. The Eagle dove like a stone, trading altitude for raw speed. It was a punishing maneuver, his body straining under crushing Gs, but it saved his life. Above him, Iranian radars struggled to update firing solutions. Their long-range missiles streaked past, searching empty sky. The Eagle disappeared back beneath the radar line, skimming terrain once more. Frustrated operators shouted over radios as their quarry slipped from view. On the ground, gunners scrambled. Zu-23 autocannons barked tracer fire into the dawn. Shoulder-fired missiles whooshed upward from rooftops. One locked briefly onto the jet's heat signature, but the Eagle's electronic warfare suite flared alive, dazzling the seeker until it veered off, exploding harmlessly above a soccer field. The pilot pushed lower, weaving for his life. Behind him, though, his weapons had already chosen their prey. The Hammer bombs were locked, relentless, untouchable. Strike, collapse, and aftermath. At 6:18 a.m., the first Hammer slammed into its target. It punched straight through the rooftop of Iran's Ministry of Intelligence headquarters. A split second later, its shaped charge detonated. A jet of molten copper tore downward, slicing through reinforced beams and concrete slabs as though they were paper. 20 meters away, the second bomb struck an instant later. Its delay fuse triggered deep inside the building, erupting with terrifying force. The explosion hurled shockwaves through corridors lined with secure archives and high-security servers. In milliseconds, walls buckled, ceilings collapsed, and the ministry's lifeblood of intelligence files and digital records was annihilated. Inside Tehran, the blast wave rippled outward at thousands of meters per second. Windows shattered in entire city blocks, glass rained down onto streets, embedding jagged shards into cars and scattering pedestrians in panicked confusion. Sirens wailed, dust plumes spiraled into the morning sky, and then came the collapse. Engineers call it progressive failure. Floors pancaked in sequence, fourth crushing third, third crushing second, weight multiplying until the 5-story stronghold folded in on itself. In less than 5 seconds, the building that once symbolized Iran's intelligence power was reduced to smoking rubble and twisted rebar. From above, American drones circled silently, cameras capturing every frame. The footage streamed in real time to the USS Gerald R. Ford and the Pentagon. Analysts marked secondary explosions as backup generators ignited within the wreckage. Senior officials in Washington watched the collapse with grim satisfaction. The point had been made in fire and steel. This was not a distant missile barrage. This was a scalpel strike, executed in person, deep in Tehran's heart. For Iran, the loss went beyond shattered concrete. Decades of operations, agent rosters, surveillance archives, clandestine plans, gone in seconds. Survivors clawed through the ruins in vain, searching for scraps of data. The psychological damage cut even deeper than the physical destruction. The nation's most secretive fortress had been laid bare, reduced to ash by a single American pilot. When the Eagle finally roared back onto the deck of the Gerald R. Ford, its fuselage scorched by dust and heat, the mission was complete. The pilot removed his helmet in silence. He had flown straight into the jaws of Iran's defenses, dropped his payload, and lived to tell the tale. In Tehran, the skyline now carried a new scar, smoke rising from the ruins of what was once thought untouchable. For Iran's leaders, it was a brutal lesson. Harm an American aviator, and you invite devastation into your most sacred halls. For allies and adversaries worldwide, it was a chilling reminder. The United States still holds the resolve and the technology to strike precisely where it hurts most. Not in shadows, not from afar, but directly, unmistakably, and without hesitation. The message was written in rubble. No fortress is beyond reach. No provocation goes unanswered.